Brad Bowman is the Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he joins us now. Brad, welcome to you. So first off, your reaction to the latest out of Gaza and the developing situation there. Is there any way, any chance of de-escalation after these 24 IDF soldiers were killed, or will the fighting pick up?
Thanks for the opportunity to join you again. The reports of the death of these Israeli soldiers is just really sad and really tragic. And this is unfortunately what one would expect of urban warfare against a determined terrorist adversary. And, Israel has come under a lot of criticism for its airstrikes that it's, in my view, had to undertake. But if you're going to curtail the airstrikes, right, then you're going to have to send in ground forces. And when you send in ground forces, they're going to be susceptible to ambushes, snipers, IEDs, and attacks like the one we saw here that took so many of these lives, soldiers that won't be returning home to their families. So, this is in the South. The focus right now in the South, where the fighting is, it's tenacious fighting, and it's sad. But I think Israelis understand after the worst single-day attack on Jews on October 7th since the Holocaust that they cannot have a terrorist enemy continue to sit on its border that does not recognize Israel's right to exist. So there's a cost, and the cost sadly will grow. But I think these are costs that Israel is willing to pay so they can continue to survive and thrive in the Middle East.
Yeah, Israel and Hamas, Brad, have both laid out their terms for the release of the hostages. Neither, though, is suitable to the other side. How do they reach a deal, and how do you negotiate with Hamas?
There's some tension here just on the Israeli side alone, right? You've got two primary objectives, one of which I just referenced, that is the destruction of Hamas. October 7th for Israelis was some combination of 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, a real strategic shock, and they're not willing to accept risks after October 7th that were acceptable before it. So they need to destroy as much as possible as Hamas, but they also need to get the hostages back. And those things are somewhat in tension, right? Because once the hostages are released, then Hamas is giving up its human shields, at least its Israeli human shields, and they know that they're more likely to not live to see the next day. So this is all easier said than done. You have the hostage families that understandably want their loved ones home yesterday, but you also have a fundamental Israeli strategic interest in destroying as much of Hamas as possible, and sometimes those two goals are in tension.
Brad, you alluded to this earlier. Israel's facing increasing international pressure to allow for the creation of a Palestinian state. Netanyahu, though, doubling down on his opposition. What does a post-war Gaza even look like?
It's a good question. You have to first defeat those that are trying to murder your men, women, and children in their homes. And then you have to talk about what is a sustainable peace. It's kind of hard to make peace with an adversary that doesn't even recognize your right to exist. Israel has domestic politics just like we do in the United States. But the first challenge here is to make sure that we never see an October 7th again. Meanwhile, don't forget that we have Iran's varsity terror proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah, that's been conducting daily or more regular attacks on the northern border with folks being killed on both sides.
Yeah. Netanyahu has vowed total victory in the war against Hamas. French President Emmanuel Macron has said he believes it's possible to destroy Hamas, but that it could take up to 10 years. How long, Brad, do you see this war dragging out?
My study of history and of military affairs and of the situation in Gaza tells me that we should be very skeptical of any timelines that people put on this. I predict it'll be measured more in years and months rather than weeks.
All right, Brad Bowman with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. We always appreciate your time and insights. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Thank you.